This story doesn't start with beer, it starts with buckets. Matt Kahn used to be a scientist and engineer in the pharmaceutical industry. One day, Matt's coworker was joking around about the empty buckets they used in their work.
And we would take food grade materials, throw them into batches, and they would come in these actually kind of nice buckets. We just throw away the buckets. And he was sort of like, what if I turn this into a fermenter? I could brew beer. It's kind of a fun idea. And next day, I was like, why don't we open a brewery? We knew nothing about making beer, but we were scientists, good biology, chemistry, a lot of that, applies. So that's how it started.
Matt left the biotech lab and teamed up with his coworker, Corey Catalano. Their office joke transformed into the Big Ditch Brewing Company. Now, Matt approaches the brewing industry using his scientific background.
Folks know that if they like something from us, the next time they have it, it will be just as good. And that came from mine and Corey's background working as scientists and working in the pharmaceutical industry, which is very regulated and high quality industry. We tried to bring that to our beer making.
This is Canal Keepers, a podcast where we tell the stories of people who keep the Erie Canal relevant today. I'm your host, Gloria Rivera. 2025 marks a major milestone for the Erie Canal, 200 years since it fully opened. But the canal looks very different than it did in 1825. From business owners and researchers to scientists and artists, each episode of Canal Keepers introduces you to new voices who care about the Erie Canal and its impact on central New York today and for the next 200 years. On this episode of Canal Keepers, Matt Kahn, a biotech engineer turned brewer and co-founder of Big Ditch Brewing Company. Before opening Big Ditch, Matt used the power of social media to promote the brewery. 2 years before opening, Matt and his business partner Corey wrote blog posts asking the Buffalo community what kind of beer they wanted.
Well, that's a great thing about Buffalo is Buffalo loves local. So they want to see their local businesses succeed. They support each other. If it's authentic, they totally buy in.
The Erie Canal was also an inspiration for the brewery. The Erie Canal opened in Buffalo in 1825. A little over 50 years later, Buffalo had more than 33 breweries. The grains needed to brew beer were in high demand and abundance, and the city needed somewhere to store them.
You could bring grain in along the canal. Their grain silos were all around this area. There's actually an area of Buffalo called Silo City, which is all of our old silos, and they had all sorts of stuff in there. I'm not a historian per se, but it certainly did play a role in making Buffalo a great city for brewing and beer making.
Matt says the name Big Ditch directly refers to the canal and serves as a tribute. The name refers to DeWitt Clinton, the New York governor who orchestrated the canal's construction. Opponents of the canal coined it as Clinton's Ditch, and the brewery's connection to the canal doesn't stop there. Shovels adorn the beer taps, and it's hard to miss the big sign inside the brewery. 3 large words are painted in bright yellow on the wall of the tap room: strength, pride, and ambition. The spirit of the Erie Canal is painted in smaller text. Matt says Big Ditch doesn't just use the Erie Canal as a selling point. The staff truly feel connected to the canal.
And that's, to me, the thing that most is a connection to the Erie Canal. Everybody here that is remotely successful, and a lot of people are hard workers. It's just not too many people here are just kind of skating by. Everybody here is working hard to just make this place a better place. And again, going back to pride, we're trying to make this place something that Buffalo can be proud of. So that does take hard work. So that's how we try to pay homage to the work that was done to build the Erie Canal.
Out of the 400 beers brewed at Big Ditch over the past decade, Matt says one stands out: the Hayburner, an American IPA. Since opening day, Hayburner has been on tap at Big Ditch.
We name our beers frequently after Erie Canal themed names. Even Hayburner, which I mentioned before, is a reference to the mules that would tow the boats down the canal. Angry mules just would eat hay and sleep. That's about it, and work. That's one story that continues to tell itself. But we're constantly naming our beers after Erie Canal folklore. So those are the ways we'll continue to honor the Erie Canal.
Matt gave us a tour of the Buffalo Brewery. We walked into a room with large silver tanks used for fermenting beer. They stand so high, brewers need a ladder to reach the top.
And then we added all these later as we grew.
Matt says the success comes from two words: performance and consistency.
So think about it, it's like the first time you've ever done something. How often is the first time you've done something completely 100% right? It takes a little practice to get things exactly right. But you're not afforded that luxury when you're making new beers. So we have to work really hard to try to make sure everything is as dialed in as possible, but that is definitely challenging, and it doesn't always happen.
Matt says despite the challenges, he's happy with the success of the brewery.
In my mind, we've mostly achieved that. We're pretty much Buffalo's biggest brewery right now. We sell Buffalo's most, revered beers.
Big Ditch Brewing Company opened its doors for business in October 2014. The brewery had 2 opening days. The first was packed with events allowing customers to sample the beer. The second was when the taproom and restaurant opened for business.
We were assembling furniture right before people were walking in, so there was that. It was kind of the stress of just getting everything ready to open.
Matt says on every employee's first day working at Big Ditch, they're told the brewery's core values: strength, pride, and ambition. Employees like bartender Justin are also drawn to the brewery for its work culture.
Working here, it has a really great culture here. For instance, like I was here maybe a week, and when Matt Kahn when I first started, he wasn't here. He was on vacation, but he made sure as soon as he came back that he asked how I was like working here, and that's just a culture in general. Like a lot of places I've worked, the like upper level ownership or management is kind of not necessarily non-existent, but kind of not as hands-on as he is.
Matt says the brewery's connection to the community doesn't stop at the building's 4 walls. Community events bring people together, like Stoutsgiving, an annual celebration and release of their stouts. The brewing company has also partnered with local nonprofits to give back to Buffalo. Matt says Big Ditch will further honor the canal by opening a new location in Lockport, New York. Lockport is a city of 20,000 in Niagara County. It's a direct product of the canal, which runs through the city. The name Lockport was inspired by the locks that would be built along the route of the canal. And locks 67 through 71 make up the largest still-standing section of the historic canal. These 5 locks make up what's called the Flight of 5.
We actually named our flight of beers here the Flight of 5, so you can get a flight of 5 different beers.
Matt says opening a second restaurant and taproom in Lockport aligns with the Big Ditch's connection to the Erie Canal.
So Lockport's even more closely touched, I'd say, by the Erie Canal. And so we're happy that we can open our next location so close to the canal. It's really walking distance in a city that is so touched by it, and hopefully, can help that city. Providing something that city something it doesn't even have right now. There's really no breweries in the city of Lockport yet, and hopefully we can make that connection and give the folks at Lockport something to be proud of.
Canal Keepers is a production of students at the S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University. This episode was reported by Amanda Rosenthal and Brittany Kerwin, written by Hannah Saltz, and edited by Lauren Davis. Produced by Dan Klazowski, who also composed our intro music. Check out our website, canalkeeperspod.com, to learn about other Erie Canal-inspired breweries and beer's history along the canal. And follow us on Instagram, @CanalKeepers. I'm your host, Gloria Rivera. Thanks for listening.